So I'm Ellie, and I'm introducing our speaker. So our speaker is Caroline Agan. She is a fellow App State grad. She graduated in 2019. Go you. She was in RUF all 4 years at App. She's been a community group leader. She was the president of RUF. And she is currently finishing up an internship as the RUF intern at Stanford University out in California. And she is going to seminary at Covenant in St. Louis starting this summer. So Caroline is just really awesome. She's a really good friend. She's someone that I often turn to for wisdom. And she's just super cool. So I'm going to pray, and then she's going to come up and speak. Okay. Dear Lord, thank you for this night. Thank you for everyone in this room. I thank you that we can all be together. I pray for Caroline as she shares your word with us, that it may be life-giving and encouraging to all of us. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Took off my glasses instead of my mask for a second. Is there a secret to unlatching this so I'm not like, just pull it up? I'm not, like, I don't do this much. Gotta find my notes. Yeah, so I am Caroline. I'm super excited to be back. App State RUF was a huge part of my time here. I actually didn't start going till the end of freshman year because I had a huge crisis and I needed help. And it was just like the moment I started meeting with people and like telling people what I was going through and how I was feeling, just immediate, like, okay, like you are now one of us. We're going to check up on you. We're going to walk you through this. And that changed everything in a lot of ways. So yeah, so I'm super excited to be back here with you guys. Yeah, I know that like when I was a student and like people be like, App State RUF's the best. I'd be like, okay, sure, all right. It's actually really annoying. And I don't like it that much, but I just want y'all to know it's like, it is a huge gift to me. And like, I think, yeah, I just encourage you to like keep investing even through your frustrations. So like Ellie said, I'm now out in California, working for RUF at Stanford, which is crazy. Stanford's one of those schools that like defines itself by the fact that it's not an Ivy and like feels really good about not being in the Ivy League because it's just like less ancient. But it's like in Silicon Valley, which is on the bay near San Francisco. It's not anything like I expected it to be. It's been really hard even before the pandemic. So I was like talking to one of my new friends, whose name is Mina, about doing this conference. And I was like, I am worried that like I'm way more sad than they are. And I'm gonna come in like, wait, I'm so depressed and sad all the time. And I thought like maybe they don't feel that way. And she's like, yeah, it's super dumb that you would think that because COVID is still happening. And also I've lived in Boone and I know that winter sucks. So yeah, even without COVID, you don't see the sun for like 7 months. But yeah, so I'm like way underqualified to be giving a talk on endurance because no year has like ever made me want to quit everything more and move into a cave. But you know, maybe it's a small comfort that like y'all are going through the same thing as me, or at least like have at some point in the past year. So a little over a decade ago, a couple of researchers at the University of Vermont started using this tool that they call the hedonometer, which is basically just the happiness meter. And it is a tool that basically like collects a random 10% of all tweets posted in English every day across the entire world. And there are like values assigned to each word used in the tweets to show what the emotional association of that word is. And it gets like super technical, so I'm not gonna like give you the details, but they can chart how like widely and deeply affected people are by large events. And like before this year, the saddest days on record were like the Vegas shooting, Boston Marathon bombing, Stoneman Douglas shooting. And those have all been surpassed 3 times in the past 12 months. So like first, that day in March last year, when we all found out COVID was like a way bigger deal than we thought. Like when the NBA canceled and like Tom Hanks tested positive or whatever. And then the other day when like the George Floyd video went viral. And then the third was like the storming of the Capitol in January. So it's like 3 like spread out big things. And the researchers said that like the really shocking thing was not just how many more people were talking about that, or even how deeply negative the associations with those words like ventilator, brutality, nationalism. They said that the shocking thing was how long these events have stayed with us. So like usually a tragedy happens and it'll like drop. And even if we're still affected by the event, like everything kind of bounces back because there's enough else going on that we can talk about. But this year it drops and it just stays down, and it like kind of climbs and it drops again and it stays down. And like part of it is like everything positive that had been going on stopped too. It's like the things that used to take up space and keep our world from being like 100% staring at graphs showing COVID rates and reading really sad op-eds in the Atlantic is gone. So like in the next 2 days, I want to like talk about how do we like endure all of this when bad things keep stacking up and we can't look away, and maybe even like shouldn't look away. But the good stuff that used to like pad the edges of our minds so that we could remember it's actually nice to be a person and like be a student and be a friend to people, like all of that's left us. Like how do we endure that? So like starting at the start, like what are we enduring? I know I can't like give voice to everything that hurts each of you, but I can give you a look at what's been hard for me in the past year. Not like to complain, but like to legitimize the things that might be running parallel for y'all. So like hot take, COVID's bad. I don't like it. I want it to stop. And like the physical distance I have to maintain in order to protect the people around me is like leaving me with this feeling of incredible isolation, where like even like the few relationships I do have are so strained because I'm only talking to those people and don't have other outlets. Even those are getting messed up. And like my students actually have not come back to campus. Like this is not even imaginable. My students are not at Stanford. They're all at home or they're in Airbnbs with each other all across the US. And they don't live locally. And so I don't get to do my job. I've lost a lot of ground that I gained last year, and I've lost an opportunity to do a job that I'm not going to get another chance at. So a ton of the things that I used to take joy in are gone. Like I used to joke that you don't know me if you haven't sat with me for 3 hours of sports bar. And that means like nobody's known me in a full year. Like the things that I really enjoy and love have stopped. And like I can keep going forever about my back hurting and not sleeping well and a lot of my friendships falling apart and how I just sit in the Taco Bell parking lot and eat another black bean Crunchwrap Supreme twice a week just to feel something. Yeah, I can go on forever. One of my favorite books is called Spurge of Sorrows. It was written by a family friend who's pastor and who struggles with anxiety and depression. And in the first few paragraphs, he's kind of like asking this question of like how we can get through dark times like these when we don't even know what to pray. Like we don't even know what to ask for because the things we want are so far out of what we can have right now. And like, we just can't even wrap our minds around like what we truly need. So much so that we've lost sight of like what God has for us and like what he loves about us. And so we just figure like, okay, everything's gone wrong. I'm sure it's somehow my fault. And I don't deserve his help. And so I guess like just asking that question again, like how do we get through those times coupled with like, you know, this circumstantial depression that's not just like chemical, I shouldn't say it that way. But it's like them coupled together for a lot of us. And even if you're not struggling with chemical depression, like I think we've all gone through some sort of like circumstantial depression in the past 12 months. And I think we have a tendency to feel guilty for our pain because other people have it worse. And I see this reflected in like almost every conversation I have with Stanford students. They don't know how to complain, which drives me nuts because I complain all the time and I really love it. But our conversations always go like this, where I'm like, you know, like, how's it going? Like, I know this super hard situation's coming up. They're like, I know I shouldn't complain because I'm at one of the top schools in the country and I got in and my brother didn't. And I'm super privileged to be here, and going here guarantees employment for the next 60 years. And then they say like the saddest thing of like, school's ruining my life and I don't love anything in the world. And my parents are getting divorced and like, I want to quit everything I'm doing, and like just listing things like all my friendships are messed up. Like I don't think anyone will ever love me. Just like listing all this stuff. And it's like, girl, that's sad. Like you don't have to feel sad in the right way. You don't have to act that way with me. And like, I've been in the mental place where you want to be hurting worse so that you feel like your sadness is justified. And that's not actually how sadness works. Like it's not a currency we give to the Lord so that he'll comfort us. He's going to comfort us regardless. And we should like be practicing thankfulness and awareness of our blessings and our privileges, but these aren't license to delegitimize real sadness. It's good to recognize that your pain is not the only pain in the world and perhaps not the worst. But it's not like more woke or more compassionate to feel guilty for your sadness. It actually like inhibits your ability to deal with that sadness. So Jesus isn't like interested in comparing sob stories, and I'm not either. He had compassion on all pain, not just the worst pain imaginable. He sees your lost parents, and he sees your like awkward relationship with your mom, and he sees your bad breakups that were really messy. And he also sees like general discomfort with dating that you don't really know how to talk about. And he sees our battles with mental illness, but he also sees your night tears that will pass by morning. And I say all of this just to like draw us back to this question. Like some of you feel this like drowning, crushing, binding, burning of circumstantial or chemical depression daily. And some of you feel like this occasionally. And all of you will feel this way someday, sorry. So as he asks, like, how do we get through? And the only answer that I can give is that you endure by responding to the twofold invitation of Jesus. And that invitation is this: first, come to me. And then, once you're with me, abide in me. So how do we endure the pain of the world? We come to Jesus and we remain in him. The first part of this invitation is extended in Matthew chapter 11, where Jesus says to a gathered crowd at the beginning of his ministry, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls.